An 18-year-old boy was caught stealing a neighbor's phone, worth just 50,000 naira. He was arrested. The police demanded 250,000 naira from his struggling parents to bail him out. With no savings and barely making ends meet, they begged, borrowed, and finally paid the police. On the way home, the father sighed and said, "My son, please never do this again. See how much your mistake cost us." But the boy turned, calm and unfazed, and said, "Daddy, don't worry. I already took the 250,000 naira back. I stole it from the officer's drawer before we left the station." Now here's the question. If you were that parent, what would you do? They say, spare the rod, spoil the child. But what happens when love becomes indulgence and protection turns into blind defense? This is the story of Pamilerin, a boy raised in love, but shielded from correction. A boy whose every wrong was excused, whose every mistake was covered up by a father who swore he would spend his last penny to protect his children, no matter what they did. But when a child grows without boundaries, without scolding, without discipline, they don't grow, they rot. This is not just a tale of crime and consequence. It is a mirror for every parent who believes that love means never saying no. Welcome to the tragic journey of a father called Baba Laspeni and the boy who lost himself in the name of love. Daddy, don't worry. That 250,000 naira is with me. I stole it from the officer's drawer before we left the station. Silence filled the old Volkswagen as it rumbled down the cracked road. The father gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white. The mother, too stunned to speak, simply stared at her son, her tears now dry from exhaustion. Pamilerin, or as the streets knew him, Pami, leaned back in his seat, calm and unreadable, as though he'd just returned from an errand and not a jail cell. That night was supposed to be a relief. After begging, borrowing, and pawning everything they owned, Pamilerin's parents had raised the 250,000 naira demanded by the corrupt officer for their son's bail. But now, their son had just confessed he'd stolen the very money they struggled to raise. But this wasn't the beginning of Pami's story. No, this was just another chapter in a long list of crimes, lies, and heartbreaks that began years ago in the heart of a small but tightly knit neighborhood where boys were raised like family or like wolves. They called him Baba Laspeni, not out of respect but mockery. A man who would do anything, to defend his children, even if it meant attacking the very people trying to help them. His real name was Ajani Barnabas, a hard-working mechanic in his mid-40s with grease permanently etched into the creases of his hands. But while he was known for fixing cars, he was infamous for something else, protecting his children like a rabid dog, especially Pamilerin. Whenever Pamilerin or his siblings got into trouble, Ajani would charge into the situation like a soldier at war. "He's just a child," he'd shout. "I can spend my last penny on my children. Do you hear me? My last penny." Neighbors who tried to discipline Pamilerin were met with threats or even police reports. Some were dragged to the station on trumped-up charges. Others gave up entirely, letting Ajani kids run wild. His wife, Mama Pamilerin, was softer in her approach, but equally complicit. She cried a lot, especially when Pamilerin started disappearing at night. But she never stood up to her husband. Not really. And so, the children, especially the first son, Pamilerin, grew up wrapped in a toxic kind of love. The kind that shields rather than shapes. It started small, just chickens and goats. Pamilerin and his ragtag gang of neighborhood boys, including his best friend Timmy, would sneak into compounds at night, snatch poultry, or livestock and roast them near the uncompleted building at the edge of the neighborhood. They called it Operation Opiro, a mischievous, almost laughable term for their backyard crime ring. Nobody took it seriously at first. After all, they were just boys. When people caught on and reported to Baba Laspenny, he would either pay off the victims, accuse them of lying, or in one notorious case, get the vigilantes who beat Pamilerin arrested. "Don't you ever touch my son again," Ajani had screamed in the street that day. "I will finish you. My son is not a thief, he's just playing." But Pami wasn't playing. As he grew older, so did his crimes. By age 15, Pamilerin had already earned a reputation. He was fast, slick, and fearless. Parties, traffic jams, street markets. Nothing was safe when Pami was around. Phones disappeared. Wallets vanished. Gold chains were snatched. But still, at home, he was Pamilerin, the cherished first son. Ajani remained blind. He would shout at the sky, "I will spend my last penny for my son, even if the whole world turns against him." Even when police reports started coming in, Ajani would find a way to pay them off, cover them up, or threaten those involved. But beneath that parental devotion was a man who was breaking. Ajani's health began to decline. Chest pains, fatigue, a growing lump in his lower abdomen that he refused to have checked, until one day he collapsed at work. The doctor said it was urgent, a tumor. The surgery would cost nearly 500,000 naira. It was money they didn't have. But for the first time, the community rallied around Ajani. People donated. Strangers helped. Even those he had wronged felt sorry for him. By the end of 2 weeks, they had raised almost everything. But when Mama Pamilerin went to withdraw the money, it was gone. Their account had been wiped. She called her son in tears. Pamilerin didn't answer. When he finally came home 2 days later, he was wearing new sneakers and holding a phone that cost more than their rent. When confronted, he didn't deny it. "I needed it. I'll get it back," he shrugged. Ajani never made it to the hospital. 3 days later, he died in their one-room apartment. His last words were barely a whisper. "My last penny." The crowd outside the Adewale family house stretched beyond the main road, spilling into nearby compounds. Ajani Barnabas, once called Baba Laspini, was gone. They buried him under the mango tree behind the family home. A simple ceremony. No choir, no canopies. Just tears, whispers, and the weight of too many things left unsaid. Pamilerin stood at the edge of the gathering, sunglasses masking his face. Not grief, just detachment. A few of the elders watched him. Some shook their heads, others spat on the ground. He killed his father. He drained him dry. And yet, none of them said a word to him directly. Not yet, but the streets never forget. After Ajani's death, Mama Pamilerin faded like fabric in the sun. She barely spoke. The woman, once known for her emotional outbursts, her trembling prayers, her fierce motherly love, became a shadow. She walked through the house like a ghost. Meals stopped. Curtains stayed shut. Neighbors tried to comfort her. But how do you console a woman who watched her husband die because her son stole his chance at survival? Pamilerin never apologized. Not truly. He would have died anyway, he once muttered. He started staying out later, returning home with more expensive clothes, new gadgets, and the stench of alcohol. Mama Pamilerin tried once, just once, to confront him. "Pami, please, I don't know you anymore." He looked at her, eyes dark. "Then stop calling me that. On the street, I'm Pami the ghost. Remember that." From that day, she stopped speaking altogether. The streets once laughed with Pami. They cheered his boldness. Young boys mimicked his slang. Girls admired his style. But things were changing. Pami had graduated from pickpocketing and street theft. He had joined a real gang now, not the harmless misfits from Operation Opiro. These were men who didn't blink at blood. His mentor, a ruthless figure known only as Scorpio, a gang leader with scars for a face and silence for a voice. Scorpio had rules, and Pami, with all his raw confidence and no moral compass, was a perfect recruit. The first operation was simple: distract, snatch, disappear. Pami excelled, but then came the second one, a house invasion. A quiet one. No guns, no violence, unless necessary. It didn't go as planned. The old man inside had a heart attack. He died before they left. Pami didn't flinch. Scorpio patted him on the back. "You're ready," he said. The next day, flyers flooded the streets. Wanted for murder and robbery. Pamilerin's face, once the pride of Babala's penny, was now pinned to every wall. The same neighbors Ajani once fought, the same people he humiliated, were now dragging Pamilerin's name through the mud. Some said it was karma. Some said Ajani had cursed himself by defending his son's wickedness. But Mama Pamilerin, she just stared at the wall day after day, hands clutching her old Bible. People stopped visiting the house. Kids pointed and whispered. One night, someone broke their window and threw in a bottle with a note. "Baba Laspenny's ghost is watching." Pamilerin didn't care. If anything, it made him colder, more untouchable. But deep down, he wasn't sleeping. He started seeing things. Dreams of his father gasping for air, blood on his hands that wouldn't wash off, the mango tree whispering his name. He started drinking more, getting sloppy, arguing with Scorpio. And Scorpio? He didn't tolerate weakness. The gang had a code. No stealing from the crew. But Pami was desperate. He had found out that his mother was ill. Severely ill. The hospital needed 200,000 naira to start treatment. But after all he'd done, there was no one left to beg. So he stole from Scorpio. Just a little. Just enough. But Scorpio found out. And Pami knew. Death was coming. He ran. He left the city. Changed his name. Cut his hair. Tried to disappear. But you can't run from ghosts. Especially not the one you created. They say the past always catches up. But what if it catches you in a place where no one knows your name? Not even you. Pamilerin had vanished. Gone was the swaggering boy with silver chains and stolen phones. In his place was a thin, brooding man who now called himself Lanre. He took up work as a bus conductor in a far-off town near Abeokuta. No one there knew his story. No one dared ask why he flinched at loud noises or always watched his back. He lived in a shared boys' quarters behind a mechanic's workshop. Irony, he ate once a day, slept with a knife under his pillow, and prayed, not to God but to silence. But silence never lasts. It started on a Wednesday. Lanre was hanging off the side of a moving danfo, shouting, "Kuto, Kuto," when he saw the face. A girl, braids, denim jacket, holding a phone to her ear. She froze, then pointed. "That's him, that's Pami." It happened so fast. By the time the bus stopped, a small crowd had formed. She was showing them his wanted poster from Lagos, the one with his old face. But the scar under his left eye was still there. The street doesn't forget. He ran. Again. Only this time, someone followed. The man's name was Doyin, a vigilante from his old neighborhood who had left Lagos years ago after his younger brother became a victim of one of Pami's robberies. Doyin didn't attack him. Not yet. He cornered him in the market alley and said, I should kill you right here, but I won't. You owe more than blood. Pamilerin didn't deny it. He just knelt. I know. That night, Doyin gave him a choice. Come back, face your mother, or keep running and let your soul rot. Pami didn't answer, but at night, for the first time in years, he dreamed of his father. This time, Ajani wasn't angry. He was sitting under the mango tree, whispering, There's still a penny left, son. Don't waste it. Pamilerin woke up sobbing. 9 months after disappearing, Pami returned to Lagos. Not with noise, not with pride, just a backpack, some saved up money, and a hunger to make something right. When he knocked on the family door, it didn't open. The neighbors came out first. Shock, disgust, fear. Then the door opened. Mama Pamilerin. She was older now, much thinner. Her eyes looked hollow. She didn't speak, just stared. Pami dropped to his knees. Mama, I'm sorry for everything. She didn't hug him, but she didn't shut the door either. That was something. Pamilerin stayed. He got a cleaning job in a church compound. Started attending late night services. Never testified. Never introduced himself. He visited his father's grave every Sunday. Planted fresh flowers. He paid off old debts. Quietly. Left envelopes at doors. Some forgave. Some didn't. But the streets noticed. The same ones that used to spit when they saw him. Started nodding. One day, a boy, no older than 10, ran up to him. Are you the real Pami? He froze. Why? The boy smiled. My mama said you used to be a thief, but now you help people. She said you changed. Pamilerin looked away, blinking hard. Tell your mama I'm saying hi. Mama Pamilerin died quietly 2 years later, peacefully, in her sleep. By then, Pami had started a small security agency. Legit. He employed ex-convicts, gave them housing, training, a second chance. At her funeral, people came. Not because of who she was, but because of who her son had become. As they lowered her beside Ajani, under the mango tree, Pami whispered, Daddy, I spent the last penny to fix what I broke. He didn't cry. He just stood tall. Some still say he was a fraud, that people like him never change. Others say redemption is only real when it's quiet, bloody, and painful. Pamilerin never argued. He never told his full story. But one thing remained. Every month, a brown envelope appeared at the local school, labeled simply, for any boy who still has a choice. A wise saying warns us, He that spareth the rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. Love without correction is like water without a cup. It spills, it wastes, it destroys. Ajani loved his son Pamilerin with everything he had, even his last penny. But his refusal to discipline, to correct, to let his child face the truth of his actions, cost him everything. Pamilerin's story isn't just about theft or gangs. It's about neglecting the hard part of parenting. The painful no's, the difficult lessons, the rebukes that save. Every child needs love, but every child also needs discipline. Because without it, we don't raise sons and daughters. We raise consequences. The question now is, are you raising your child with love or with fear of losing their love? Choose wisely before you too spend your last penny on regrets.